In this video, we'll talk about the Alpha Tiles word parser. The word parser divides up words into individual tiles so that we can play tile-based games. For example, the English word children could be divided up as shown, or most people would probably say we should teach CH, the digraph, on its own tile. In the same way for Spanish, most would probably also say that we should teach the digraph CH as a unit. Now let's look at a more complex example. Here we have the Matpa word cha'ng, which means ear. And here, if we divide everything up one per tile, we don't just have letters, we have some other Unicode characters, diacritics or symbols, that are on their own tile. But someone might say we should teach the high tone and the A together on a single tile. And someone might also suggest we should teach the glottal stop together with the A and the high tone on its own tile. The N in this word is not a consonant, but a nasality marker. So someone might suggest that we should teach UN together as a single unit. And finally, like in English and Spanish, someone might suggest that we should teach the digraph CH as a unit. Our hope for Alpha Tiles is that it would be flexible enough that we can present the words within the app divided up in the ways in which each language team prefers. Now let's take a look at an example setup and see how that affects the parsing of the word. Here we have the game tiles listed for Matpa. When parsing a word, the parser begins by suggesting 4 options to be the first tile of the word. So we can see here options for this word include C, which is 1 Unicode character long, or CH, which is 2 characters long, or CHA, CHA high tone. So those are the 4 options for what's going to be the first tile of the word. So we evaluate these 4 tiles against the game tiles listed to the left, and we find that there's only one valid game tile. And so that becomes the first game tile of the word, and now we've parsed through the CH of this word. Now we suggest another 4 options, and we evaluate them against the table. In this case, there are 2 valid tiles. The parser will always choose the longest valid tile. So the high-toned A becomes the next tile of the word, and we continue as follows. We can't present 4 options anymore because we're running out of word, but we evaluate what we have left against the game tiles. We choose the valid tile, and we continue on as follows until we fully parse the word. And so most of the games in Alpha Tiles are based on the word parser. Most of the games involve breaking up words into tiles so that we can do things like identify the initial tile of a word, identify a missing tile of a word, play games like word search, scramble the letters of a word and identify them. But there are a few games that just use whole words and do not depend on parsing the word into individual tiles. Now we've run into a couple challenges with our word parser, and so we're going to talk about those. The first is sequence ambiguity. So most would probably agree we would teach the PH in phone as a unit. It's a digraph, right? But this means that for a word like haphazard, it would also parse PH onto its own tile, which makes the word kind of look like haphazard. And so to avoid this, teams enter a period in the word list to break up a tile. And so that produces P on its own tile and H on its own tile, but for phone we can still get PH together on its own tile. Now this period won't show up within the game. The user of the app won't see that period at any point. It's just something that the teams preparing the files will see in the data files they're preparing. A more complex challenge involves multifunction symbols. Here's the Matpa word for garbage, naska. And that first N in that word is a consonant. But as we talked about before in this language, there's also an N that represents nasality. So this changes the word from being du to dung. And so now we have a symbol N that sometimes is of the type consonant, but sometimes is of the type other. And so this will affect games like identify the missing consonant. We need to know for each tile, is it a consonant, is it a vowel, is it something else? And there's even words where the same symbol occurs twice in the same word, but of different types. And here we have an example of another language where the same symbol occurs within a word, once as a vowel and once as a consonant. And so we address this issue by the way we set up the game tile list and the word list. Here we're looking at the game tile list. For a tile in, we have 3 distractor tiles. So these are incorrect options that appear with the tile in to make levels more difficult. This tile is of the type consonant. And we're developing some new games that instead of being based on word audio are based on the tile's audio. Okay, so we could have an audio file for the tile in, and then we show uppercase. Okay, now we've added some additional columns to address this issue of the multifunction symbols. So we have the first type of this tile. This tile in has the type consonant. But this also has a second type. Sometimes it is of type X. It's not really a consonant or a vowel. And then there could be a third type. In this case, for this tile in, it does not have a third type. Okay, now we're looking at the word list. So the tile list and the word list work together to solve this challenge of the multifunction symbols. So we have the Spanish word basura, garbage, the Matpa word nazca, the duration of the file in milliseconds, and this mixed types column. So this mixed types column is how we're addressing the problem. So the mixed types column is basically an answer to a question. So if we're playing a game with the word nazca and we remove the tile in for a game and the game says I need to know what type that tile is, it checks the game tiles list and it sees that there are answers in multiple columns. It can be of type C or it can be of type X. So that tells it should check the mixed types column to get the answer to its question. Its question is, what type am I? The answer for this word is that it's a consonant. Okay? In the same way, if the word dung were to ask a question, the answer to that question is it's of type other. Now if we have more than one multifunction symbol within a word, then this solution isn't going to work. And so what we do in this case is we count the number of Unicode characters in the word. So for this word niwa, there are 6 Unicode characters, and so you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we've replaced the slots with the type where necessary. Okay, so the first slot, that in, is a consonant. And the second slot, that type is of type other. Now this is lexical information. This is specific to the word. This isn't something we can analyze or program for. It just has to be explicitly stated. Okay, so this is kind of challenging, right? But keep in mind that this is not something that will apply to many languages, perhaps most languages. And for the languages that it does apply, this would often just apply to a few words. The other thing to keep in mind is we run a validator. And the validator will check and say, well, this tile in is only ever of type C or X, and so this is an issue that we've specified it in this word as a type vowel. Okay, the validator would also catch if we transpose something. So here we wanted to put C2, but if we accidentally put 1C, the validator is going to catch that. It's going to say, well, in is of mixed type, so we can't put a 1. We need to say what it is. And I, in the second slot, is always a vowel, so it shouldn't be specified as C. Okay, so the validator will catch things like that, and then we can make the corrections. Remember, most words in most languages will be simple. They'll look like this fourth row. Okay, the word for sun, ahkat. It doesn't have any multifunction symbols, so we don't need to enter anything in the mixed types column. And every tile has its definition in the game tiles section, the part up above we're looking at, and it's simpler. It's not using any of the final 4 columns. Okay, so that was the challenge of multifunction symbols. Okay, so in this video we learned about the Alpha Tiles word parser, and we learned about a couple unique situations that come up related to sequence ambiguity and multifunction symbols. Thank you so much for watching.